Welcome back to the Buffalo Bread Podcast, now recording on a Tuesday, which is not always our way, because the Bills are playing a Thursday night football game, which I think everyone has come to loathe, with the exception of the presence of Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's the best part about Thursday night football for me, and also just because I love watching the Bills play. But in the past, it's been kind of stinks, right? Sometimes there's more injuries on Thursday because the players haven't had a chance to rest. Sometimes it's just poor football because they haven't had time to game plan. We'll see how it turns out. Bills are at home against Miami. They are lucky in the way that they closed the game that we'll get into against the Jets, in that their starters were resting in the fourth, while Miami was playing kind of a slugfest with the Patriots all the way up to the end. How are you thinking? What are you feeling? Where do you want to start, Dan?
Oh, man. I mean, I do think we got to start with the recap here real quick of the Jets game. And, shout out to my boss, Sharon, listener of the pod. She confronted me on my take, which for those of you listening probably remember, I was very, very close to picking the Jets in the upset 37-35 over the Bills. And I walk into the office on Monday and she asks me one question. She's like, how are you so bad at this?
Don't you describe yourself as a podcast host who covers the team? Yeah.
Don't you claim to know something about the Bills? And, I reminded her of two things. One, the segment is called Prediction Sure to Go Wrong. We deal a lot from our anxiety and trauma as Bills fans.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of the energy around this pod comes from. And then the other thing I said, which is true, is that week one is a liar. And we talked about this a little bit, and that a lot of units, and for the Bills in particular, did not get first team reps throughout the course of the preseason. Josh didn't take a snap in the preseason. A lot of the defensive units, our defensive guys, couldn't get on the field during preseason for injury or what have you. So week one is always kind of an extension of the preseason. And your team is never as bad as you think they are, i.e. the Bills defense, which we'll talk about in this Jets recap. And they're also never as good as you think they are. Perfect case in point, Justin Fields being a competent passer in week one against a Pittsburgh Steelers defense that after their second loss, or after their second game against Seattle, looks a little bit old and a little bit injured, right? Mm-hmm. Puts greater things into context, having more football to watch. So I gently reminded her of both of those things. And I said, don't worry. On the pod this week, I'm going to go absolute chalk. I'm going to pick the Bills to win by like 15, and I'll have some ridiculous positive Bills vibes going into Thursday.
Well, and you're going to be probably wrong again, because that's right. What it's about, right? Like we don't have, if we were right, if we knew everything or anything, neither of us would be still working jobs or having bosses named Sharon.
If we knew anything,
yes,
we still wouldn't be working jobs.
We'd be sport betting our way to millionaire status, no problems.
That's right.
And so, the week one is a liar. And I think that when you said, these Bills starters didn't get a lot of snaps, just look at the connection between Josh Allen and Khalil Shakir, which is almost non-existent to this point after two games. It's not there because neither of them got to play together. And this is where practice also matters, right? Like, we know that they have a great connection. We know he's an incredible outlet for Josh Allen on third downs, especially. But it just hasn't really been looking the same. It's actually looked like Josh Palmer has a better Josh Allen connection right now, because they did spend a lot of time in the preseason together, even if they weren't playing in live games. So yeah, it's a bit of a liar. I think everybody in Bills Mafia who is smashing the panic button, including both of us after watching the Ravens shred the defense, came down to earth a little bit. It's like, okay, no, they had to settle in as starters. The safeties as a pair did not play together with the rest of the defense. And we got to see a lot of really nice run fits, run blitzes. We got some good zone. We got some good man. There were some combo coverages they ran in a lot of ways. I hope this is more what the Bills defense looks like. Joey Bosa is a man possessed. He has not graded above 90 in terms of his efficacy since 5 years ago, and he looks like he's having a career resurgence. I hope he stays healthy. I hope he keeps it up, because if so, he will absolutely be the cornerstone of pass rush on this team.
Yeah, he looks like the veteran presence that this squad needed to tilt certain game situations in their favor when it mattered most. And this was, for week two, for a guy who's got an injury history and concerns about his ability to stay on the field, the Buffalo Bills have not shied away from playing him significant snaps in both of their first 2 games. I think his snap percentage was somewhere near 70% against the Jets. And I mean, he made every single snap count. To your point earlier, PFF grade of 95.8, 7 QB pressures and a sack in this game, and of course the forced fumble. I mean, homeboy was cooking. It was great to see that.
And those 7 QB pressures and fumble, and I think it was 2 forced fumbles, because one of them didn't result in a turnover.
That didn't result in a turnover, correct.
Yeah. So 2 forced fumbles, sack, 7 pressures on 15 pass rushing snaps.
Just crazy.
47% efficacy.
It's just wild, that pressure rate. Yeah. Just absolutely crazy.
It's been, I mean, it's a kind of an unsustainable. It would be historically high if he were to hit it for the whole season, but so far so good. Keep it up, Joey.
Yeah, no. We are no longer dealing from a place of anxiety. He can absolutely keep this up. No, I can't take any more shit for my bad takes anymore. He's totally going to do this.
He's
JJ.
Awesome. Yeah, he's going to be an absolute revelation. He's going to be everything the Bills hoped that they were getting when they signed Von Miller to a monster contract to only tear his ACL 6 games in.
Yeah, no. Let's knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen with Joey. But right now, listen, 2 weeks in, lots of football to play. He kind of looks like the steal of free agency for my money.
Yeah, for sure. I think so too. And I think that just to pull into context some of the things about this game, for anybody who wasn't watching super closely, the Buffalo Bills dominated in all 3 phases to the point where Josh Allen literally came in on the last slide of the PowerPoint presentation of the group project and put questions in front of a picture of a cat, right? Like that was all he contributed. He made a couple of key 3rd down throws to keep the chains moving. Dawson Knox had a couple of key 3rd down drops to stop the chains from moving. James Cook literally carried the whole team on his back the entire game to 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, a couple of receptions. So it was an excellent day for James Cook owners. You're very welcome, Michael. Somebody who asked me if they should play James Cook, and I said, you should absolutely play James Cook. And then during the game, he was like, thank you. This was the best way. There's it was good to see as a Bills fan. It was nice to kind of have that feeling that maybe they still control the East, even after the hot start that the Jets came out with on offense last week. I don't know I wouldn't say that the Steelers defenses are frauds, but I would say that it helps level set once you get more of a sample size, right? And I think similarly for the Jets' offensive explosion last year and the Jets' defensive capabilities, I think they looked a little more firm on defense this game than they did against the Steelers, of course. The Bills still hung 30 points on them, but some of that was advantageous turnovers, game script pieces, not just running up and down the field. I think everyone would say that the Bills seemed to have to work for it in this one.
Yeah, no, it was another workman-like 30 performance, but in there, the Bills, you mentioned them running the East, JJ. I mean, the Bills just seemed heading into week 2, and this is the sign of a really well-coached team, a team that believes in itself. They seem to have a different level of confidence about them, despite the fact that everyone in the media, everyone on this podcast was picking them as like the upset special of the weekend. They were so confident, JJ, going into this game that they literally gave Taron Johnson a veteran rest day in week 2 and said, hey, man, you can take this one off. We got it, right? And he is, Bills Mafia, already declared that he will be good to go for Thursday night on the short week against the Miami Dolphins, which looks like it was the plan, right? So we've talked a little bit about the defense. Listen, there's on the offense, James Cook was a big deal with regard to the Bills' results in this game, but also kind of a sneaky under the radar thing too. Again, not that the Bills weren't taking the game seriously. They obviously were, but they were also working some stuff out here too. JJ on offense, their formation flexibility was really impressive. I was rewatching the film on this game because I've been kind of curious all season. What are they going to do with these 3 talented tight ends that they have? And Dawson Knox, Jackson Hawes, and Dalton Kincaid. And they rolled out 13 personnel on 8 total offensive snaps this game. And it looked great each time they did it. They never passed out of this formation, but they used Dalton Kincaid in a lot of motion to help identify what the defense was trying to do. And then for the most part, because I've been paying attention to how Dalton Kincaid's blocking has or hasn't improved this year on film.
So much better.
It's a lot better.
Yeah.
Now, most of the time they were running away from Kincaid, right?
Mhm.
They lined him up
Yeah.
on the opposite side of the formation where the play was going, save for one 13 personnel formation, the Elijah Moore touchdown,
Mhm.
where they run to Kincaid's side and he blocks
He
Brandon
makes
Stevens
yeah.
into the sun.
He made a
It was,
great block on that play. Well, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And even when he's on the backside of not the play side of a run, he is sealing off the backside. And that's really like people don't realize how important that is. There's a lot of players who work their way out of the league by being lazy backside run blockers because they don't think it's important. But when you have a back like James Cook, you better believe there's a chance that he's going to reverse the field and come all the way across the formation back towards you. There's always a chance of that. And if you're not doing a good job of getting a good seal on that block, that might be the whole run cooked. So he was doing a good job. The thing that I also found interesting was they had like Jackson Hawes and Dawson Knox mostly pulling through the hole as if they were
yes,
fullbacks, like from
yes.
the formation outside, inside through, tackle and tackle guard holes. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it's they've lined up Kincaid in preseason formations before at the fullback position. It's interesting to see what they're doing with him this year because it's so clear to me, JJ, when he lines up at the tight end or a little bit outside at like the power slot, it's so clear to me that when he's in motion, he is still the primary pass catcher that opposing defenses are focusing on, right?
Yes. Yeah.
They're still shading him. They're sending a lot of coverage his way. I mean, I counted just out of that 13 personnel where the Bills didn't run a pass play out of it once. Us Gardner was shaded over Kincaid when he was in motion on half of those 8 snaps. Like he still gets a lot of respect from opposing defenses as a pass catcher, and Brady's learning how to use that as a bit of a decoy.
Right. Well, and I think too that also points to something else, which is I don't know that anybody who's a casual Bills fan is going to say Dalton Kincaid is the most dangerous weapon in the passing game on this team just because he doesn't have the stats to prove it. But you should pay attention to what NFL people who spend 70 hours a week are doing when they look at this team, and they think he is the most dangerous pass catcher. If they think he is, then they're seeing the plays that didn't happen that could have happened. Josh Allen has been notoriously inaccurate when throwing to Kincaid over the whole last season. Kincaid was injured. There's a lot of things. Even still, the defensive coordinators in this league, the staff assistant, the quality control coaches who are preparing the cut-ups for team meetings and the defensive unit meetings are pointing him out. And there's a reason, right? So he is a guy who is as advertised in a lot of ways, except for his production so far. And the production, I think, will come just based on 2 games of seeing him play.
I agree.
Presuming health, right?
Yep, presuming health, and I agree. And I have a very bold prediction to reverse. Bold prediction, sure to go wrong, to reverse my my ill-fated ways from this past week. So yeah,
that's a great segue. Let's recap our prediction, sure to go wrong, for the Bills Jets. In week 1, we were looking at season long. We kind of did the score, but then we were talking about some season stuff. But week 2, we went specifically into the game with just a couple of prop bets and the score prediction. Dan, you picked the Bills to win a narrow victory, 37-35 against the Jets.
I got also one number right out of that score. I got the 3 correct.
Yes, exactly. And then I picked the Bills to win 35-27, again in a close one, because I think we both believed in this Fields and Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson kind of triumvirate of attack. And in fact, of course, the Bills won 30-10, and it wasn't even nearly that close. It was 3 minutes and 28 seconds left when the Jets scored their lone touchdown of the game. And some fun stats before we get into the predictions that are worthwhile. Tyrod Taylor had half of the Jets' total yardage as a team, and he was in for the last 5 minutes with 77 yards rushing and passing.
We love you, Tyrod.
Yeah, we miss you, Tyrod, but not really. Josh Allen's awesome, but you could always come back as a backup maybe. But also Mitch came in when Josh Allen's nose was gushing blood and threw one ball for a completion for 32 yards, while Justin Fields was 3 for 11 for 27 yards on the day. Yes. So just just piling more logs on the fire of how terrible that offensive performance was by the Jets. And yeah, the Bills did run blitzes, zone man, mix, match coverage. The defense looked a lot better, but also more simplified. They were not asking the defense. I think Ed Oliver missing had some things to do with that. They were not asking the defensive linemen to do anything really spectacular other than play super gap sound and let the linebackers clean up and the DBs clean up, which they did really well. I think Trey White had surprisingly aggressive tackling. Christian Benford blew up a few plays. I think he might have, heard some of the chirping about why do we pay this guy so much when he was passed on so much. But yeah, no, they really showed out this time, and it was a wonderful thing. You had turnovers, over under half of an interception. We both picked under, and in fact, we were both right. There were no interceptions thrown or caught in the game.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and then
being right about one thing.
We were right about two things because we both had Joey Bosa sack. That was my prop. Over under half a sack, and he ended up getting one. So
yes, take it.
So take that, Dan's boss. We know something. Yeah.
Wait, Sharon, thank you for listening. Don't listen to JJ.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to hear that you're a fan.
And I really like being employed.
Please also keep him employed because I need him to continue to pay for Instagram ad revenue.
Yes, absolutely.
Or expenditures.
One more thing. I want to transition away from this game, but one more thing I want to get your take on. And this is going to sound like a troll when I ask it, but it's not a troll. What did you think of Deion Walker getting the start next to Daquan Jones at the beginning of the game, and Daquan Jones being shifted over to the 3-tech?
I don't know what I think about it. I think he played fine in the position. I think he was fine. I think TJ Sanders was fine. Zion Logue was fine. None of them put in anywhere close to the performance that Ed Oliver put together last week against the Ravens, because he basically kept the Bills defense alive. But it was interesting to me because especially when we talk about the two of those, the two of those players seem to be out of position for how they started them, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
I don't think that, Daquan Jones has always been more of a space eater 1-tech, and for him to take, here's what I do think. I think that they lean on Ed Oliver's position to call out gaps, stunts, different games that the defensive line was doing, and I think rather than trying to put that on a rookie for their second game in the league, I think they probably just swapped it up and had Daquan Jones take over some of the line calls.
Mm-hmm.
Right, just to keep it organized, because he's the veteran in the room. He knows what he's doing. And so that's probably what they did, which why wouldn't you have Greg Rousseau or Joey Bosa? Probably because they, you're across the whole
coming off the edge, right?
Yeah, coming off the edge, you're across the whole line, so it's a little bit harder to hear each other. So maybe it's just that, it's logistics.
Yeah, no, I thought the defensive line, despite the switch ups, was perfectly anonymous for most of the game, right? Some good penetration up the middle on pass rush reps, but outside of that, perfectly anonymous, and I will take that after the Baltimore game. The DBs, however, man, stout in the run game. Cole Bishop, shout out. Christian Benford, total maniac. I don't know that there is a cornerback that does more holistically for their team's defensive scheme than Christian Benford does, right?
Right.
He's to me, the Hines Ward of cornerbacks. Hines Ward was never the best receiver in the league at any given time, but he was a great receiver, and he was an even better all-around football player. And to me, that's what Benford is. He's a great cornerback, but that dude is a football player, and he will do whatever you ask him to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. And again, I think it's the kind of thing where the Bills paid him a lot of money, and games like that show you why, right? Like even games like the Ravens, like you had mentioned on the previous pod, he was he was requiring an opposing quarterback to be elite to make completions, and they did make completions on him, which of course he hated, but he tackled almost immediately. His run after the catch has always been the lowest since he entered the league. It's bottom 5, players in the league year over year, because he does not let people get away if he does get, a completion on his coverage.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. Without a doubt. I think that's a great spot to leave it on a high note. Again, positivity being the theme of this particular pod. And let's move on from week 2 to week 3, JJ. Quick turnaround, as you mentioned. It is Phins week here on the pod. Always a special tradition. We got Miami, man. Where do you want to start with this one? And I'm going to give you options that are outside of the normal offense, defense, special teams. Do you want to start with either of those sides of the ball, or do you generally want to start with the vibes coming out of Miami? Because they're like the story on this week in this quick turnaround.
Let's just Gen Z this thing and go vibes. Let's
Let's
go
go
Zoomer.
vibes.
Yeah, let's go vibes. Let's just talk about the vibes.
Talk about vibes. The vibes
Yeah,
are
man.
bad for the Dolphins.
Yes.
They're bad right now.
Very bad.
My sophisticated analysis.
Yeah. The vibes are that they did not invest enough in their interior offensive line for a billionth consecutive season, and that they have an excellent left tackle and barely anything else. And Devon Achane is keeping this offense afloat single-handedly by just being slippery, because he has the lowest percentage of runs without contact in the backfield in the league, but he's breaking tackles, right? Like, he's trying to make something out of nothing almost every play, and he's doing a decent enough job at it. When they even give him a tiny sliver of space, he's rushing for 17, 18, 19 yards. So that's still a threat to any opposing defense. But Tua looks bad. He looks off target. It's, Tyreek Hill, I think, had one catch in the third quarter. It was a while before they got him involved. I think he ran a few balls, but yeah, so it is definitely not the high flying, super tuned up offense that we've seen in years past from the Dolphins. They still hung over over 25 points, 27 points, something like that.
Yeah, on the again, and I will say this because this matters. The backup secondary for the most part for the New England Patriots.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So again, it is all relative. The productivity you have, the defense matters, right? The EPA per play of that defense matters. So what we see then is the Dolphins coming to this game. The Bills are like pretty much the top or second offense in terms of power rankings. The top three, at least, depending on where you're looking for your stats.
They are number 3 in offensive DVOA currently after
Yes.
2 games.
There we go. They are middle of the pack on defense, abysmally
19th.
Abysmally low prior to this week, and then this week pulled them up from like the bottom of the barrel to middle of the barrel. However, the Dolphins overall EPA are like 26th in the league, defense worst in the league, offense like 20th in the league. It's looking bad, and their 2 opponents have been 2 of the worst in terms of competitive EPA. So all of that saying, they are not looking too hot, and the Bills are 11.5 point favorites at home.
So that number's gone up to 12.5 since this afternoon. I have
to update my notes here.
Yeah, DraftKings usually doesn't mess on these things. But I just want to. I watched a lot of Tua tape from the first 2 games this season, and it is the same story over and over with this Miami offense. If they cannot get the run game going to make the offense feel a little bit more unpredictable, and they can't get Tua to create within structure, if they've got to rely on Tua to create outside of the pocket or outside of structure, dude, this offense is a tough watch if that's got to happen. It's all got to begin and end for them with the run game this Thursday if they want a shot against the Buffalo Bills on the road and really to kind of salvage their season. I mean, this is a team that's in a must win, and the answers that they need to fix what ails them feels like it is the answers that have eluded them for the larger part of 2.5 years under Mike McDaniel, who is a coach that I like. And I get now that he is losing the act, right? In Rex Ryan's words, the nerd boy act is kind of wearing thin. And I totally get that. But he's a smart dude who gets offense and gets football. And it just seems like from a skill standpoint, the cupboard on the offensive line is bare. The wide receiver group, you cannot take advantage of their tools because of that. The traditional run game, non-existent. They're averaging less than 3 yards per carry in traditional scripted runs. And the only thing they have really going for them is that Devon Achane is an absolute miracle catching the ball out of the backfield and scrambling for extra yards. He's the only thing, to your point, that's kept them in games this season. And I don't know if you're the Miami Dolphins, having more questions than answers in the way that you do is going to be enough to go up against a Buffalo Bills defense that is banged up, and we'll get to the injury report in a minute, but still well coached enough to know exactly where to hurt you.
Right, absolutely. Well, and I think too, it's interesting that they have the worst left guard in the league in Savania today, as of recent rankings. They have one of the bottom third center, one of the worst right guards. And these are all, these are investments that they've made at different times. It's a young line, but it's bad. And then, thankfully for them, they have a healthy Patrick Paul, who's a second year in the league and looks like a very, very good left tackle. And when they run to his side, he tends to give some space to Devon Achane. But yeah, I mean, Hill and Waddle, they look frustrated because the protection, Tua is not the player who can shrug off a sack and make something happen, like you mentioned with second reaction plays. And this offense needs that because the line is so abysmal. And I agree. I like Mike McDaniel to an extent. I agree that he's a smart offensive mind. I think that he came up through the Shanahan tree, right?
Shanahan, yeah.
Yeah. So anyone who's watched the Dolphins since he started there can say that they do interesting, competitive things on offense. Some other coaches get so frustrated they claim it's cheating when it's really just working within the rule books, right? Those kind of orbit motions and running a little bit towards the line when they snap the ball, stuff like that. But he does push the limits and he does plan a good offensive attack. The problem is, whether it's him or the front office, they're not giving the talent that they need to be successful. And I think this is the biggest problem. I think Mike McDaniels is a pretty terrible motivator and leader of men. I think that's his.
That's becoming obvious. Yeah,
I don't think that players take him seriously. I don't think they respect him. I don't think that they care about breaking his rules. Right? I think that's the kind of thing. That's where he is falling. Is he is not. He's a great offensive and football mind. I think that's true, but I think he's not a good leader of men, and that's absolutely an important component of being a good head coach. You don't make it in the league just by being smart at your job. Everybody's smart at their job for the most part.
Absolutely.
Unless they're legacy kids like the Ryans.
In which case you don't need to be. You just need to 3 yards in a cloud of dust and get in front of a mic and say a dumb thing every now and then. So JJ, all the vibe check being complete with this team, right? This is a must-win game for them, as close to a must-win game as there is in week 3 for a football team. They got to change the momentum. They have to wash off the stink of their failure against the Bills year after year after year in so many different situations. They're doing it at what seems like a very disadvantageous time for them, not just where they are culturally with this team, but also where they are health and talent-wise as well. So, how are they going to choose to attack this Buffalo Bills defense? And I think the answer is going to be in the running back room. They can no longer clear those deep, quick windows in under 2.5 seconds because teams are just onto that stuff downfield to Hill and Waddle. And the Bills have been one of the forebears in shutting down and clouding all of Tua's passing lanes and forcing him off his first read. But other teams have caught on too. They've played the Colts and they've played a very depleted, as we talked about, New England Patriots defense. And both of those squads, JJ, have forced Tua into a combined 2.6 seconds average time to throw this season, which is the second longest time to throw of his career. We know that Tua lives and breathes in that zone under 2.5 seconds. Last year, he got the ball out at a record pace for him at 2.2. This year, teams are figuring out how to make him hold on to the ball that extra half second longer. And it showed up not just in his turnover-worthy throws, where he ranks 4th in the league after 2 weeks, JJ, but Tua's also taken 8 sacks this year behind that offensive line, right? So if you are the Miami Dolphins, it's not just the traditional run game you need to get going. You need to take advantage of where this Bills defense has got in the past, and that is running backs catching the ball out of the backfield. And you've got one of the best in Devon Achane. And I think we're going to see a lot of that from this Dolphins offense, JJ. They've run 21 personnel about a third of the time, 28.6% of the time, according to Next Gen Stats this season, to a success rate that is tied for 7th in the league. If you are the Dolphins, you've got to start early in establishing not just the traditional run game, but you've got to make the Bills leery of the line of scrimmage with your running backs catching balls out of the backfield to free up some of those deeper mid-level passing, middle of the field passing lanes that Tua likes to hit. Because if you can't do that, JJ, I just don't know that this Miami Dolphins offense has an answer for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, no, I would agree completely. I think that it's a matter of the Bills are going to be pinning their ears back and trying to get them in long and late downs so they can get after and be physical with Tua, because they know from experience that he generally declines in his accuracy and gameplay the more times you put him on the ground, right? I'm also shocked that he was sacked 8 times and isn't out with a concussion already. And that's not
Crazy.
wishing any ill on him. It's just I worry about that dude because he's in like the highest level of danger zone for somebody with repeat head injuries. And so, yeah, I've agreed that if I am trying to plan this game, I'm trying to make the Bills' aggressive rush hurt them because I know I can't stop it. And the Bills have been using a 5-man pressure on something like 50% of 40 or 50% of passing downs.
We saw it a lot the preseason,
yeah.
and they've rolled it out here in the regular season.
And the thing that's so amazing about that is with a 5-man pressure, it leaves you 6 for coverage, and it also, and the most an offensive can have is 5 guys out in a pass formation, and so you at least have man up with one helper in the coverage, and then on the rush you have man up unless they leave somebody in to chip, like a tight end or a running back, which just frees up another person in coverage to help with combo coverage. So with that said, I think that the Bills' 5-man pressure look is going to, the Dolphins are going to try to find ways to scheme someone out of position so they can get those underneath throws, because like you said, nothing long range is going to open up unless they unlock the Bills from that defensive aspect, because that's what the Bills are going to protect deep always first, right? So they're going to have to start killing them with the screen and short game in order to get anything going. And if they try to get those long developing pass plays without unlocking that coverage, Tua is going to be just staring at tight window throws that he doesn't feel confident to make, and then he's going to be on his back.
Yeah, for sure. This is a game where if the secondary was a bit healthier, I'd just be like, you know what? Just play dime the whole time and tell Cole Bishop, Devon Achane is yours. Wherever he goes, you go.
Line it up in cover 4 and double Devon Achane with, Terrell Bernard and Cole Bishop.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So, yeah. JJ, I mean, not much else to say. I think we can say about this with surprisingly limited Dolphins offense against the Buffalo Bills defense. Let's flip it over to the other side of the ball. Let's talk Bills offense here, because oh God, this is going to sound ridiculously arrogant. I think they're going to be able to do whatever they want to do against this Miami defense, as long as pass protection holds up against what is still an effective line. Mm-hmm. This is a defensive line that combined for 3 sacks against Drake May last week, albeit the New England offensive line is not what the Buffalo offensive line is. But Josh Allen is also one of the hardest QBs in the league to sack, knock on wood. So I got to believe that he's going to pick the secondary apart to death, and James Cook is going to have himself a day, both catching the ball out of the backfield and running the ball as well.
Yeah, nothing here intimidates me. I think Chop Robinson and Bradley Chubb have shown, Jalen Phillips to some extent have all shown that they have an occasional flash play here and there. They all actually remind me a little bit, and if this is insulting to our dear friend Steve or other Dolphins fans listening, I'm sorry. They all remind me a little bit of AJ Epineza. I think Chop Robinson is...
It's insulting to me.
Yeah. Chop Robinson has shown some solid flashes, but he has been pretty quiet and insignificant in games against the Bills, against elite tackles, right? Like against scrubs, he looks amazing, as do most relatively talented defensive ends. But when he plays solid, a solid team with very good tackles like the Bills have, or plays a team that schemes specific ways to like help out a little bit with his speed rush, if you can cut down that speed rush, he doesn't have much left. Similarly, Bradley Chubb looks a little old. He looks like he's coming off those injuries that have cleaned him out, for several seasons. Same with Jalen Phillips, who I think was very promising first coming out, as it was Greg Rousseau's running mate at Miami, actually retired from football while in college, then came back after an injury, and then has had injury issues in the league as well. And I think that they all look, kind of a little banged up, a little bit tentative in some regards, except for Chop Robinson. And then Chop Robinson, if you have a plan for him, I'm not very scared of this pass rush is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Especially with the Bills tackles. That being said, they need to take it seriously, of course. And they're not going to have many problems freeing up. They don't have to hold up their blocks for more than a few seconds, because I do think that even with limited man beaters on the outside for the Bills, I think Khalil Shakir, Josh Palmer, even Keon Coleman to some extent are going to be able to make some hay against Jack Jones, Rasul Douglas, and Jason Marshall Jr., who are players. The only one of those names I know is Rasul Douglas, because he played for the Bills. Yeah,
who we all remember, right?
Yes.
Yeah, man. I mean, the injuries to this already depleted secondary are just voluminous for the Dolphins. Storm Duck has not practiced as of today. Specified ankle injury. Iafatu Melifanu, their safety, who you and I liked him.
I liked him because he was coming out of Syracuse, right?
Kid coming out of Syracuse. Yeah, I think we both liked him.
Yeah, we
Calf
liked him
injury. Yeah, did not practice. I mean, it's Jalen Waddle, shoulder injury, shocker, right? Darren Waller still limited in practice. Malik Washington, Jalen Wright. I mean, the list goes on. The Bills, they've got their own injuries too. I don't expect Ed Oliver to play again in this particular game, but Matt Milano, the Bills coaching staff, also being a little bit cagey about what's going on with him. Also a do not practice today. But even with that being said, I mean, this is still advantage Bills for all the reasons I think that we talked about. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do think, it's going to be Matt Milano and Ed Oliver out, I'm guessing.
I think so.
Yeah. It does look like they'll be able to get Jordan Hancock back, which is good when you're missing or limited with Taron Johnson, who might, they might bring him back slow if he even plays this week, or save him for another week and let him heal up. Actually, didn't you say that he's declared he will play?
He said he is good to go. The coaching staff has not yet. Yes.
And that actually has happened in the past with Bills players who have then not played because the coaches were like, no, you won't, like, sit back down. Yeah. So that's interesting. But I do think that, Cam Lewis showed up and really had a good game last week against the Jets. But it would make me feel a little better to have Jordan Hancock, who they've been cross training at safety as well, around for that game. So, yeah. I don't have a lot I'm worried about with the Dolphins defense. The line is probably the best part, because the defensive backfield and secondary is really poor. I mean, they count on Terrell Dodson as like one of their top 2 starting linebackers in nickel, and his coverage grade is one of the worst in the league, and it has been forever since the Bill. I mean, I liked him as a special teamer and occasional fill-in third linebacker on run-heavy plays, because he was great for that and is great for that. Still, I think he's one of the better kind of thumper, old school style linebackers in the division, at least. But he's just not it for coverage. Give me James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, even Jackson Hawes against Terrell Dodson. I like it.
All day.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, maybe this is the game where they pass a little bit more of that 13 personnel, right? Maybe this is where Khalil Shakir gets going. But like, if you are the Buffalo Bills and you are who you think you are offensively, this is a defense you should absolutely roll up. No excuses whatsoever.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, man. Prediction sure to go wrong?
Yeah, let's hit it.
All right, here we go. This is my redemption arc, God. But here's the thing. I have picked conservatively in favor of the Bills, except for week 1 where I picked against them. Do I want to break that trend and really go like chalk and go like full confidence in this segment? I don't know. We'll see. All right. I'm going to give you the stat. I'm going to give you the breakdown here, JJ. The Bills 12.5-point favorites. The over-under on this game is creeping up. It is now 49.5. Not quite the 50.5 that the week 1 matchup was, but still we're expecting a shootout. And it is worth keeping in mind that the last time the Dolphins were in Buffalo, it was a shootout type of game where the over got to 60, and it took a last second Tyler Bass field goal to put the Bills over the top. So whatever state Miami's in, they are not afraid to play in Buffalo, and they've proven that over the past couple of years.
And this is a fair weather Buffalo game, which is different than there was cold weather last time they played.
Exactly. So all that's being said, JJ, final score prediction. What do you got?
Bills 38, Dolphins 27.
Yeah, you're definitely taking the over, and you got the Bills winning. But you don't have the Bills covering. You got the Dolphins cover in this game. If my math is mathin', all right.
Yes.
I'm gonna go Bills. I do think the Bills put a 30 burger up. I think,
Okay.
what is their streak? Their streak is at 10 straight regular season games, something like that,
Yeah, I think so.
of at least 30 or
30 points. Yeah.
crazy streak.
Well, and the fact that they had that streak last year for like, it was like 14 straight games or something, and then they broke it for like one game and then came back on, started it again. Right? Like,
just this offense is an absolute wagon, dude. All right. I'm gonna go Bills 35, Dolphins 17. Taking is that the under? No, that's the over. I'm taking the over, right? That's barely over. But I just think the Dolphins are not going to have enough answers. Like, there is nothing to me that suggests that what the Dolphins can do from a game planning standpoint on a short week with all of these injuries, where you basically get one practice. They're not all of a sudden going to have new wrinkles and new answers for this Bills squad that's dominated them. So yeah, I think short turnaround, Bills playing the way they're playing at home benefits them, and I think the Bills win
yeah, and cover.
and cover, and we
Nice.
take the over.
Yeah.
All right, JJ, do you have a prop bet? I've got one. I'm very excited about.
I've got one as well. Why don't you go first?
All right, JJ. Over under 1.5 pass catchers recording 100 yards receiving for the Bills.
Oh.
Yes.
So you're banking on two. If you take the over, you're saying that two people are getting over 100 yards receiving.
Correct. And I'll give you bonus points if you can tell me the last time that happened.
Whoa. Okay. Whew. Okay. So I'm gonna make my guess, which is that it is under. I'm gonna say maybe it's 1, but not 2.
Okay.
And then 2, was it like John Brown and Stephon Diggs in 2020?
Oh, no. It was a little bit more recent than that, too.
Okay.
So I Googled it at first, and I will say that Google's AI search engine sucks because it gave me Peerless Price and Eric Moulds in 2001.
Wow. No, it was way more recent than that. Yeah.
Way more recent. So I actually went to Pro Football Reference and, downloaded a couple of their Excel sheets and found it myself.
Yeah.
2023.
Okay.
Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis.
Oh, Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So happened a couple of years ago, but has not happened with this iteration of the Joe Brady Bills yet. So
Okay.
I am taking the over, dude.
All right.
Again, if it's not against this secondary under these circumstances, when,
Right.
And I'm going to say that one is Dalton Kincaid, because,
Okay.
every time I say Dalton Kincaid is going to have a 100-yard receiving game, he totally does. Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman.
Okay.
Are my two picks for the pass
That's
catchers.
exciting. I hope that's true. That would say so much about the Bills' last 2 drafts if that happened.
Sneakily, that is why I'm picking these two guys.
I would say, I would say if it does happen, I'm gonna pick Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. Yeah, but I'm saying it's not going to happen. But I think Kincaid has a huge game here, just because neither of their linebackers can cover. If Yatu Malafanu is injured and already kind of bad at covering tight ends, even with all that size and athleticism, and so I'm just, if it does happen, I think it's Kincaid and Shakir.
Yeah, Javon Holland used to give Kincaid and Knox fits, but not on the squad anymore.
Right.
So, yep. All right, man. What's your prop?
My prop is actually defensive based. Bills defense, 2 or more, or 1.5 sacks, over under.
Over. I mean, you've got to smash the over, and I am on the record with my like meh, my ambivalence to this defensive line overall. But short week, we know this offensive line for Miami is what it is. Tua hanging on to the ball long, doesn't have a lot of mobility in that pocket, and the Bills have traditionally sacked the crap out of Tua. So I want to say over. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a 4-sack game.
Ooh, I'm going to put that in the notes. I brought it up because I wanted to say over, and I will say over. I think over, and I'm going to say a 3-sack game.
There you go. All right. I like it. All right, man. Well, we have done it. We have done a you got one more.
I've got one more.
You've got one more.
I've got one more prop. This is a kind of projection. So over under 4.5 losses before Mike McDaniels is canned.
I think if they lose this game, they leave him in Buffalo.
Really?
I think it's under.
Do you really think that that's it? Like
I do.
They start 0-3 and he's out?
I think if this team, especially if they get like boat raced in Buffalo, it's like, what do you think he's going to turn around? You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, it's like Michigan losing to Ohio State so many times, you know, if you're the Dolphins, and at some point you got to start making the culture change that you need to move on. So,
okay. So you're taking the under, which would be 3 losses.
I'm taking the under. If they get the doors blown off of them on Thursday night, I think they leave McDaniel in Buffalo. If they're competitive, he buys himself another week.
Okay. Yeah. I'm saying over. I think that, I don't recall just off the top of my head when their bye week is, but I think it's the kind of thing that they would change at the bye if he doesn't have at least a 500 record by then.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, man. All right. Yeah. Got anything else for us?
Nope.
All right, man. We did it. We did the Jets post game, did our pregame for Phins week, and now we just get to enjoy some Bills football earlier than usual on Thursday. For all of you listening at home, as always, thank you. Like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your pods. This one is going up on YouTube. We are also on Apple, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcasts. And as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.